Hi guys, so Nigel Farage launched his latest immigration policy, which pledges to remove hundreds of thousands of people as a result of ending indefinite right to remain, and he also wants to deny benefits to foreign nationals. Now, he was asked about some of the details, but like his friend across the pond, Donald Trump, Nigel isn't a details type of guy. Have a listen to this.
Clarity very quickly on if somebody is on benefits but has indefinite leave to remain at the moment, will they be deported? Is that exactly what the policy is? And if so, do you expect legal challenges on that? And if I may, just a second question, what about pensioners who have indefinite leave to remain? They won't be able to apply for a work visa because they're not working anymore, but they may have been in this country for decades.
Let us deal with the main objective of today's press conference. It's to wake everybody up to the Boriswave. It's to wake everybody up to the sheer irresponsibility of the last government and the massive impending cost that will have on this country for decades and decades to come. That is the primary reason that we're sitting here talking with you today. Yes, it is true. There are those here on indefinite leave to remain that are living on benefits. Will we be free from legal challenges? Well, of course, having cut out the Human Rights Act, the European Court in Strasbourg, British courts will be free to make judgments that are the right judgments, which they're not at the moment. We are not for a minute pretending that going back through the backlog is going to be an easy thing to do. It'll be complex, it'll come in many forms, but we do intend to address it.
So as I said, not a details type of guy. So nothing really here. It's all vibes. It's all just vibes. He's saying, look, what we need to do is we need to focus on the Boriswave, and I'll get to that in a moment. And we're not actually going to give you any details. We're not actually going to answer any questions about how this would actually work. Now, it seems since this press conference, Zia Youssef, the former chairman and now head of DODGES in Reform UK, has come out and said EU nationals will not be covered under this scheme. So it's already been undermined within a few hours. Okay, now when he talks about the Boriswave, what he's talking about, of course, is the rise in immigration when Boris Johnson was Prime Minister. Now, it's important to remember that Nigel Farage and Reform, or the Brexit Party at the time, stood down candidates in order for Boris Johnson to win a massive majority and get Brexit done. Now, the Boriswave is the increase in immigration as a result of Brexit. In part the pandemic, but also because of Brexit. And who delivered Brexit? Nigel Farage and Boris Johnson. They're the ones who are pushing for Brexit. It's ironic that the guy who pushed hardest for Brexit, convincing people to vote against their own interests, convincing people that if they voted to leave the European Union, immigration would come down, is now trying to profit from the fact that immigration has increased as a result of Brexit. Because as I've mentioned before, the economy relied on transient workers, people coming from European nations, from Eastern Europe, for example, to work in fields, picking fruit and vegetables, people working in hospitality, people working in manufacturing, in agriculture, in the services sector, in manufacturing, construction, you name it. There were workers coming from the European Union to do the jobs there that British people can't do or don't want to do. And because freedom of movement ended as a result of Brexit, more migrants were coming from outside the European Union, and in some cases they were bringing their families with them, while before, European migrant workers were not doing that. That is a result of Brexit. Now, has Nigel Farage owned up to that? Has he apologised to the people he's trying to sell the idea that he's the saviour to stop immigration? No, of course not. Is he going to blame Brexit? Of course not. He's blaming the Tories and in particular Boris Johnson, describing it as the Boriswave. He's trying to throw the Tories under a bus here. And Boris Johnson too. Now, Boris Johnson could respond by saying, actually, this is a result of Brexit, but he won't do that either. And unfortunately, the Labour government are not blaming Brexit either for this. We know, you can look at the figures yourself. As soon as the UK left the European Union, I'm not talking about the Brexit vote, I'm talking about when it left. Look at the data for immigration. There was a massive increase. Now, it happened around the same time as the pandemic. The numbers eventually recovered significantly after the pandemic because people came back to Britain. But Brexit had a massive impact as well. And no one's talking about that on the right because they are afraid to criticize Brexit. And Nigel Farage, of course, will not, because that is a cornerstone of his entire political career. So if you're hoping to get some detail from Nigel Farage on what he's going to do, well, you're going to have to wait a long time. It's all vibes. It's all the Tories are doing it wrong. The Labour Party are doing it wrong now. You need to vote for reform because we're the ones who will fix it, even though we, under the Brexit Party, are part of the problem. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think, and I'll see you in the next video.